newborns just back from the hospital. For Scarlett, Perfume Bay had been a crash course in motherhood. She'd learned that while each newborn was much like the others, with a scrunched monkey face and oversized lolling head topped by an identical blue and red striped knit hat, each little roly-poly body wrapped in an identical blue and red striped receiving blanket, she was still expected to exclaim superlatives for each one. The other guests gasped at the bruise on her cheek, which looked even worse today, and Countess Tian fussed over Lady Yu. Although Scarlett tried to appear unbowed and unapologetic, she seethed at herself for losing her temper. Yu Lian, loss of face, shameful to fight with Lady Yu. Scarlett didn't say the courtly titles she'd given the other ladies out loud, but she could think of them no other way. Her secret taunt were how they carried themselves like descendants of the royal line. With her bejeweled hands, Lady Yu cradled Countess Tian's baby. Her pinched features softened as she touched his nose. "What a noisy thing," she said, careful not to attract the attention of jealous spirits of praise. She could soothe the fussiest infant, while Scarlett's own lack of interest in children seemed a personal failing. In her 2 decades away from her home village, she hadn't spent much time with children, and their laughs, their screams, and their whines seemed to belong in a realm that she watched but did not herself inhabit. Bundled up in slippers and a Perfume Bay velour tracksuit, Countess Tian had taken the most traditional precautions to rest in the month after delivery, forgoing showers and outings as though she were living in the Ming Dynasty without the benefit of indoor plumbing, clean water, or science. Precautions Boss Young wanted for Scarlett, too. Countess Tian fretted whether her son's wife, decades from now, would demonstrate proper respect to her. "She won't look after me, not like a daughter." "Who says a daughter has to look after her mother?" Daisy slouched in a chair in the corner. Privately, Scarlett agreed, even though Daisy was a collective nightmare, the troubled teen that their babies each had the potential to become. Her parents must have sent her to Perfume Bay to hide her condition. She twirled her pigtails. "Mine can go to hell." Neither she nor Scarlett were moneyed married wives, not like the other guests. Surprisingly nimble late in her 3rd trimester, Daisy had the build of a gymnast but for her basketball belly. From behind, she didn't look pregnant, not like Scarlett, whose hips, buttocks, and thighs had swelled like a bear fattening for hibernation. After Daisy had been caught sneaking out, Mama Fang had installed bars on the windows of her room. Everyone ignored Daisy, and the theoretical daughter-in-law continued to vex Countess Tian. "What if she turns my son against me?" "Disown him," Lady Yu declared. Mama Fang peered over her bifocals at Countess Tian. "To please your son, she'll have to please you." On the muted television, children danced. The girls in sequined crop tops and miniskirts over shorts, and the boys in tracksuits. Lady Yu pointed to the center of the stage. "That girl has glasses." Chinese parents were blunt when it came to calling out physical imperfections in their children. Their weight, their eyesight, their teeth, assessed like any other possession. Countess Tian's baby farted, loud as a bicycle horn, creating a snickering commotion that Scarlett needed to excuse herself. When the other guests engaged in mind-numbing talk of colic remedies, potty training, and educational toys, she wanted to flee. Motherhood and its self-sacrifice still seemed remote. She began edging off the couch, but Mama Fang stopped her, depositing the baby into her arms. "You need practice." Relentless, she reminded Scarlett of those cunning grannies of the ancient tales who enabled liaisons between maidens and masters, traded gossip for tiles of silver, the go-betweens who weren't the villains or the heroes, but upon whom the plot hinged. Mama Fang carried 3 passports, U.S., Panama, and Hong Kong, and like a movie action hero or container ship, freely chose which flag to fly. On that premise, she founded Perfume Bay, because what parents wouldn't give a child every advantage within their reach? She instructed Scarlett to support the head of the babies, who had the unfocused stare of a coma patient. "You If she proved herself adept as a mother, Bastien might turn reasonable. If he gave her a chance, she would offer him one, too. The baby wore a 24-karat gold pendant stamped with his Chinese zodiac sign, the year of the snake. For their child, Bastien had sent one fashioned out of a U.S. gold coin and embossed with bald eagles, one clutching branches in its talons, and another roosting in a nest. Ugly and gaudy, it belonged around the neck of a chain-smoking Macau gambler, not their son. The pacifier fell out of the baby's mouth, and when she tried to catch it one-handed, the baby slipped from her grasp. Thump. Face down, spread eagle on the carpet. Silence. Utter silence. Until he shrieked and everyone shouted at once, "Aïe, gotcha, ma!" Countess Tian wept, asking if he'd been hurt, if he'd have a flat nose. The other woman leaned away as if Scarlet were diseased. She bit her lip, dismayed. Mama Fang scooped him up and checked him over. He wasn't bleeding. He'd suffered a fright, nothing more. "Babies are sturdier than you think," she said lightly. "He has iron bones, an iron head." Nodding her hands, Scarlet squeezed until the bones ground together. Her hands had been busy and useful until she became pregnant, and the pain now cut through the numbness that had settled over her at Perfume Bay. Countess Tian kissed the top of her baby's head and insisted on going to the emergency room. Mama Fang summoned the man to take him there, arranged for an herbal potion to calm the Countess, wrapped the baby in a red quilted blanket, and as she followed them out the door, distracted him with a rattle drum, the tiny beads pattering like rain. Inside the examination room, the tech squirted warm jelly onto Scarlet's belly, tattooed with the dark line of pregnancy. Scarlet had requested an ultrasound a week ahead of schedule because she yearned to see her baby. The local clinic had Chinese doctors and staff, and the tech, Gigi, was originally from Chengdu. Within minutes, she'd shared her life story, how she'd come to Los Angeles on a special nursing visa, how her wages kept her family's hot pot restaurant afloat and her brother in school. Scarlet soon stopped listening. She had to leave Perfume Bay before she went crazy, before she hurt anyone else. She had a temper, but she'd never been one to catfight. Always restless, she was now skidding out of control, a scooter on gravel. She dropped a baby. She wanted to fly to Hong Kong and decide what to do next, but if she stayed here beyond her 36th week, which began in a few days, no airline would let her board. Mama Fang held everyone's wallets, passports, and their cash in the safe in her office, part of her pledge to take care of every detail. That meant Scarlet couldn't pay for the fare and couldn't leave the country. And if she asked Bastien for a ticket, he'd refuse. The waxy tissue paper on the exam table crinkled beneath her. She would have to think of another way to find help, to play the part of a pregnant woman in distress. She could hitch a ride to the airport, but still, what of the ticket and the passport? Her mother would have to go into debt to assist her, if she could get in touch with Ma at all. She'd given her mother a mobile phone, but Ma always kept it turned off. She didn't know how to check her voicemail, although Scarlet had shown her dozens of times. Ma didn't know she was in America. Except for Bastien, no one else in China did either. Not her coworkers, not her neighbors. The tech circled the wand around Scarlet's navel. In China, Bastien had bribed the nurse with a hongbao, a red envelope of lucky money, to give a secret sonogram. Her mystery put on display. The government forbade sex identification to prevent parents from aborting girls. When told they were having a boy, Bastien had bowed his head and clasped his hands to his mouth, speechless. His face had seemed almost young, and so unguarded she wanted to run her thumb along his jaw, to stroke the curve of his brows and down his nose, and press this memory into her flesh. She'd never made him so happy, and never would again. After that day, after he peered inside her, he acted as if he had a right to her every thought, to her every move. This machine was much fancier, with a large screen bright as a winter moon. Her baby would be bigger now, his features defined, his limbs longer and body plump, in her second sonogram, the last before he emerged from between her legs. She wished she could have told Mom. Her mother worked at a family planning clinic, tracking pregnancies throughout the district. The people had to sacrifice, jiku, to eat bitterness for the sake of their country, and the more you defied Ma at the clinic, the harder she struck back. To enforce the one-child policy, she escalated in punishments. She issued fines to the school teacher who refused to urinate in front of her during her pregnancy test, and to the teenager discovered in the fields screwing a man who wasn't her husband. If you didn't show up for your abortion, she locked up your parents in a dank, cinder-block cell beside the clinic. If anyone found out that her own daughter was pregnant and unmarried, Mom might lose the grim job that had sustained her as Scarlett never had all these years. If Scarlett had gone to her for help, Mom might have forced her to end the pregnancy. "How much does Mama Fang charge?" Gigi asked. Having shared the details of her finances, she had no qualms asking about Scarlett's. $25,000, years of Scarlett's salary. "What?" Gigi exclaimed. She pressed the wand down hard against the lower curve of Scarlett's belly. "So expensive. You know, you can deliver for free." Scarlett winced from the pressure. Free. Some people just go to the emergency room when they're in labor. The hospital can't turn you away even if you can't pay, even if you're not American. She had to be wrong. Ross Young wouldn't have spent so much on Perfume Bay if labor and delivery services were free in the United States. A black and white blur appeared on screen, and Scarlett felt like a bride in an arranged marriage just before the red silk is lifted to reveal her husband's face. What if the tech found something wrong? What if his arm had shriveled, a hole was hollowed out of his heart, or a cleft palate twisted his lips? With each pass of the wand, Scarlett glimpsed a fishbone spine, the cap of the skull, and the limbs folded like an umbrella in a silvery shaft of light. The blobby images had little relation to the kicks and flutters deep within her, the secret connection that she and the baby shared that no machine could record. "She's a swimmer," Gigi said. "Really moving around today." She. The other sonogram. "They said I was having a boy." "Mistakes happen all the time," Gigi said. "It can be hard to read." "Maybe you made a mistake." "Not today." Gigi pointed an arrow at the baby's crotch, at the 3 white lines that marked her sex. "Not this far along. She's practically posing for us." Gigi showed her the baby's face, ghostly through the static, a broadcast from a distant planet. The pointed chin, Scarlett's, and the squat nose, Boss Young's. The tech hit a button, and the machine spat out grainy images. Scarlett couldn't breathe, couldn't move. If she so much as turned her head, she might topple off the exam table. She stared at the 3 lines, the sonogram exposing the parts she'd never gotten a clear view of on herself, exposing yet another daughter for Boss Young. A girl like her, sharing her blood, her breath, her flesh. If, when Boss Young disowned his bastard, her daughter would need every privilege American citizenship afforded her. Scarlett couldn't risk him summoning her back to China and demanding a refund from Mama Fang. She reached for her purse on a shelf by the examination table and dug around until she found the velvet box. Her t-shirt slid onto her sticky belly, clinging and clammy. "Are you sure it's not a boy?" Scarlett pulled out the gold necklace. "A girl." Gigi nudged the arrow again. 3 lines. Scarlett turned her cheek into the light toward Gigi's. The bruise from the catfight was fading but visible. She wanted the tech to understand the danger she was in. "It's a boy." The heavy pendant swung through her fingers, twisting and glimmering. Gigi slipped the necklace into her pocket with an ease that made Scarlett wonder if the young woman had taken gifts from other expectant mothers with secrets of their own. Congratulations! On Thursday at 6 a.m., on the 9th day of the 7th lunar month, Lady Yu had an appointment to deliver her son, a day shy of her 39th week. Almost all the women at Perfume Bay booked their C-sections in advance. Some, like Lady Yu, had previously given birth by a C-section, and others wanted to remove the pain and unpredictability of going into labor and to make sure their child's birthday fell on an auspicious date. The mothers-to-be wanted to ensure that their children weren't born on the 7th day of the 7th month, the night of the Magpie Festival. On that day in the village, Scarlett and the other girls used to pray for a good husband. Newlyweds wished the gods would grant them a happy marriage, and elders told children the legend as romantic as it was tragic. Long ago, two lovers, a humble cowherder and a weaver girl, a fairy in disguise, were torn apart when the goddess of heaven, the fairy's mother, scratched her hairpin into the night sky, welling up a river of stars to separate them. Once a year, on the night of the festival, magpies would soar to the heavens, hovering wing to wing. The lovers crossed the universe on this quivering bridge of feathers and reunited for a kiss. Lady Yu didn't want her son's fate linked to this day. Although he might not marry until 2 or 3 decades from now, she would align the heavens in his favor. On Tuesday evening, 2 days before the scheduled C-section, Nurse Sun wanted to send Lady Yu to the hospital because her blood pressure had risen and her feet had become puffy as steamed bread. Scarlett wondered if the cat bite had caused the symptoms. Lady Yu refused to go. She didn't have a headache, blurry vision, or pain on her right side, none of the riskier signs of preeclampsia. "The baby will wait," she said at dinner, imperious, as though she sat in a sedan chair and not on a donut-shaped hemorrhoid cushion. Lady Yu wasn't going to the operating room today, not on the unlucky 7th day of the 7th month, and not when her physician was unavailable. Mama Feng hardened her jaw. She didn't like being challenged, but must have understood that if Lady Yu enjoyed her stay, she would bring in many new customers. Scarlett stirred her soup, spongy fish bladders and lily bulbs boiled with pork bones. She was long accustomed to eating every part of the animal, but this menu, despite its benefits to pregnant women and new mothers, must be hard on the delicate stomachs of the other guests. Countess Tian massaged her hands, complaining her fingers ached. She had developed her own physical therapy for the baby Scarlett had brought. For an hour each day, she pinched her son's nose to straighten it as he flailed his arms and legs in protest. A crash outside made everyone jump in their seats. Mama Feng's lanyard snagged on the spindle of her chair, jerking back her head. Rubbing her neck, she set the keys on the counter before peering out the patio door. "Hello? Who's there?" She disappeared outside. The keys to Mama Feng's office, to the safe, to freedom. Before Scarlett could brush against the keys, push them behind the hot water dispenser to fetch later, Mama Feng returned. She washed her hands in the sink and slipped the keys around her neck. "Raccoons. Knocked over the can. Garbage everywhere." Scarlett bit back her disappointment. As much as she wanted to flee Perfume Bay, she had to remain here until after delivery. Boss Young could love a daughter. She'd seen the softness in his face when his eldest called. When Scarlett and the baby returned to China, he would forgive the misfortune of her gender. Scarlett's ambivalence about the pregnancy had been a kind of grief she had come to see. Because Boss Young had claimed the boy wholly, it felt like she'd already lost the baby. A daughter was hers to protect. After dinner, Mama Feng followed Scarlett, asking how she felt, how she slept. As much as she hovered during the day, she typically didn't come into their rooms. She led Scarlett to the bed, tucking pillows around her to take pressure off her joints. Sleep with one between your legs, one behind your back, and between your arms. Feels like someone's holding you. When men aren't around, women find a way. Mama Fang sat on the edge of the bed, wafting a grainy scent of medicinal herbs. Strong woman, like you, like us. Scarlet tensed, wondering why she'd taken this sudden interest in her. You left home young, didn't you? Mama Fang asked. White roots peeped out from her hairline, above a forehead smooth as tofu pudding. She might have been in her mid-50s. Judging from her hands, thick and strong from hard labor that probably started when she was a girl, she hadn't led a pampered life. If Papa Fang existed, he never visited, and Mama Fang never spoke of him. Maybe, before founding Perfume Bay, she'd run a brothel. Maybe she'd been a rich man's mistress and cashed in jewelry to open the center. Young as Daisy, Scarlet said. Younger. Me too, Mama Fang said. She had worked as a maid in the home of a wealthy Hong Kong family. It was the others here. They never worked, Scarlet said. Mama Fang pursed her lips. She didn't expect to be interrupted. Yes, yes, she said, and continued her story. She'd been very lonely, but the family's son was kind to her. After he'd gotten her pregnant, she gave the baby to his family. I did it for my boy, Mama Fang said. You can do it for yours. Too stunned to speak, Scarlet let the words sink in. Boss Young wanted to raise the baby, Mama Fang said, and give him a life of comfort and security. You'll be free, Mama Fang said. Free, along with a $20,000 gift for her sacrifice and for her silence. Scarlet knew at once he'd been too much of a coward to ask himself. He must have enlisted Mama Fang, who would perform any service, sell anything, anyone, for an additional fee. Scarlet couldn't bring herself to say more, but Mama Fang seemed to understand. She put her hand on Scarlet's arm. Her touch was more comforting than Scarlet would have expected. You can travel, Mama Fang said. Buy a condo or open a shop with the money. For once, she hadn't sounded so grasping. She also must have been a woman scorned, paid off by a wealthy family, and she was offering advice to her younger self. Her voice softened. If you want to become a partner at Perfume Bay, I welcome you. You, me, there's so much possibility. Scarlet's shock turned to rage. Mama Fang was counseling her with one hand in Scarlet's pocket and the other in Boss Young's. Flailing like a dung beetle, she tried to sit up, resisting Mama Fang's attempts to help her. Scarlet hated her. She hated him. She hated herself for being tempted by what this money could buy. A new car, time off for a year or more, and an apartment for Ma who could quit her job at the clinic. Fantasizing only for a moment, but still, a moment. In suspecting she might be a gold digger, Boss Young had turned her into one. She swung her legs around, her joints creaking, feeling jumbled as a bundle of sticks. They both stood. My daughter, you don't need to be ashamed, Mama Fang said. Some women aren't meant to hold babies. I'll learn, Scarlet choked up at once. You said I'd learn! After what happened, the Honorable Master Young worried about his baby, but I told him we're monitoring you closely. Mama Fang sighed, seeing Scarlet's outrage. I had to tell him. The bill for the emergency room, for the tests. If he had you declared a threat to your child, you'd lose your son. Your son. Boss Young didn't know Scarlet carried a girl. As soon as he did, he and his money would disappear. He'd end Scarlet's stay at Perfume Bay. She had to get as much as she could from him before he discovered the truth. Mama Fang studied her, as though Scarlet were a salt and pepper crab, and she wanted to extract every last morsel out of her. More, Scarlet said. I want more. If you get me more, then... Mama Fang took out a red envelope from her jacket pocket, bulging with $100 bills. If Scarlet signed the papers giving up her rights by tomorrow, she'd convinced Boss Young to add a $3,000 bonus. To show he's taking care of you. She must have secured a bonus for herself, too. She placed the envelope in Scarlet's hand, closed her fingers around it, and gave what she must consider the highest compliment of all. We think alike. Never settle for the first offer. Scarlet forced herself to smile and clasped her hand with Mama Fang's. At that moment, she heard the door slam. Then someone blundered down the hall with heavy footfalls that sounded like the erratic raps of a ghost. In the hallway, they found Lady Yu barefoot and groping the wall. She was panting, heaving, and she stank of vomit. Mama Fang touched her arm, and Lady Yu collapsed and slid to the floor. Other guests closed in, a tangle of bellies and arms. Mama Fang shouted at them to get back, and when they withdrew, Lady Yu was grimacing, moaning with her eyes closed, pounding the heel of her palm to her forehead, as if she might knock out the pain. Mama Fang's spectacles had fallen to the floor, and a cracked lens had popped out of the frame. Nurse Sun ran in, puffing, the pink tunic of her uniform covered in spit up. Call an ambulance, Countess Stan shouted. 911, Daisy said. Call 911! Mama Fang didn't want to get the authorities involved, Scarlet could tell, when she announced that she and Nurse Sun would take Lady Yu. Except that Mama Fang couldn't drive because her glasses were broken, and Nurse Sun, the only one on duty, didn't know how. She was the youngest on staff, a newlywed and new to the United States, and her husband drove her to and from work. The babies, unattended in the nursery, started wailing. Mama Fang dangled the keys and asked if anyone knew how to drive. Scarlet owed them nothing. Not Mama Fang, who'd sold her out. Not Lady Yu, who'd schemed against her. Scarlet wanted the police to expose Mama Fang and shut down Perfume Bay. But if she didn't drive, now, Lady Yu and her baby might die. She took the keys from Mama Fang. Outside, she hoisted herself into the old van, the seat an uninterrupted expanse from door to door, long and wide enough for someone to take a nap. She'd never driven a vehicle this big, ungainly as an ox. After pulling up to the front door of Perfume Bay, she had to pee. She had developed the bladder of an incontinent granny. She hobbled inside, where Nurse Sun was trying to maneuver the wheelchair through the living room. Every time the nurse bumped into furniture, Lady Yu slipped toward the floor. When Scarlet emerged from the bathroom, Nurse Sun had her arms around Lady Yu's waist. From behind, Mama Fang had hooked her arms under Lady Yu's shoulders. They followed Scarlet to the van, Mama Fang climbing beside her into the front passenger seat, and Lady Yu leaning on Nurse Sun in the back. The other guests gathered in the headlights, clutching babies rescued from the nursery. They feared for their friend, and feared for themselves even more, realizing, as Scarlet had, the danger they were in as pregnant women. She, like everyone else here, had believed herself safe, yielding to the illusion that giving birth was under her control, if only she ate a certain combination of foods, swallowed certain herbs, and performed certain exercises. In truth, their bodies had been overtaken. The residential streets of this hilly neighborhood were dark, without streetlights, and when Scarlet made a right turn out of the driveway, the front tire jumped the curb, throwing everyone back in their seats. By tomorrow, she'd have a bruise on her chest where the seatbelt held her. In pregnancy, blood seemed closer to the surface of her skin, as close as her emotions, pumping like a fire hose through her body. Lady Yu groaned noisily. Overwhelmed, Scarlet screeched to a halt and took her hands off the wheel. If she got into an accident, if the police pulled her over, she'd be detained and possibly arrested. What if she was deported? Her daughter would lose her chance for an American citizenship. Breathe, Mama Fang told Scarlet. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Scarlett followed and eased off the brake. Traffic was light, and with each block, her speed and confidence grew. At the hospital, Mama Fang dashed into the emergency room, and orderlies emerged with a gurney to fetch Lady Yu. When an ambulance appeared in her rearview mirror, Scarlett drove the van into a red zone and left the engine running, rather than finding a parking spot. She didn't know how long Mama Fang would be inside the building. She hit the wipers, which sprayed and swept the windshield clean, and turned on the radio, spinning the dial until she landed on a rock music station. She adjusted her seat, belt, and mirrors, feeling like an astronaut harnessed in a space capsule before blast-off. The car behind her honked, and she pulled ahead, pushing lightly on the gas. The van glided to the end of the aisle, all but driving itself. The engine throbbed through her, power restrained, though at the ready, urging her on. America called to her, the land of cars, of fast highways that opened up the country that she'd always wanted to explore, the country where she could make a life for her daughter. She could keep going. She would keep going. Over the speed bump, out of the parking lot, onto the street, and into the unknown. Heading east, she hit all green lights, the road stretching endlessly ahead. Unrolling the window, she let in the breeze and drummed her fingers against the side of the van. Each beat matched her pounding heart. She brushed her hand across the red envelope stowed in the inner pocket of her tracksuit jacket, and then accelerated, the lights around her blurring